Hello, welcome to the Jefferson Educational Society's Friday at noon mindfulness practice. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Penny Meckley Porter, and I'm with Thrive Therapy Space in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm glad you joined us. So we're going to do two different mindfulness exercises today. One is going to be a food and drink mindfulness exercise. And the second will be what I'm calling, it shouldn't be this way. So the first will be a food or drink. And so I'd like to give you each a chance. Maybe you've all just sat here, but I'd like to give you a chance now. Perhaps you can press pause. I'd like to give you a chance now to get up and get something that you enjoy drinking. It could be a coffee, a soda, a seltzer water, ice water. Just get a little bit of it. And also get a food that you enjoy eating, and just really a little bit of it. If it's potato chips, just get a couple of chips. If it's an apple, well, you grab your apple. So as I said, maybe I'll pause here and let you go. But if you're watching later on, of course, you can press pause and go and grab yourself some food and drink. So we're going to start today. Well, first a little bit more about mindfulness. So some of you have been here before, and you know that we're learning about mindfulness and trying different mindfulness practices, because each of you can find a mindfulness practice that really does help you. Some of them you won't like at all, and others maybe will really resonate with you, and you can practice it every day if you'd like. And the goal of these mindfulness practices is to just help us to be more present more often. So more present here in the present moment, where we're noticing what's happening in the present moment instead of being off kind of thinking about the past or spinning on the past in that way that we can overthink things, or being in the future and worrying about things in particular in the future. Mindfulness exercises can help us practice staying in the present moment. They also help us practice being aware of ourselves kind of in a deeper way, so that as we practice mindfulness, we over time are more aware of our thoughts and how they interact with our emotions, and how our emotions interact with our behaviors. And they're kind of interconnected. And being more aware of these things can help us to make different decisions, right? Because our behaviors can be pretty impulsive in some ways when we feel some kind of way. And as we're more aware, we can be a little bit less impulsive and really contemplate where we're coming from, and hopefully have compassion for ourselves. Okay, so a drink item. I'd like you to grab your drink, whatever it is. I happen to have an orange juice here with one ice cube. That's how I like it. And before you start, perhaps you could close your eyes, because we're going to take our time with this. It's different than the way you normally eat or you normally drink. I mean, normally I just drink quickly and don't even pay any attention, okay? But this is going to be a little bit different. We're pausing to notice the sensation, the taste. Maybe your favorite drink is going to have seltzer in it, or bubbles in it, carbonation in it. First, pausing with your drink and having gratitude for that drink and for any way that you're aware that it was produced. We don't have to get all complicated about this, but I have an orange juice. So I can have gratitude. I can appreciate the fact that there was sun on trees somewhere, and somehow those oranges were picked and processed, brought to a grocery store, purchased by someone, and here this is for me. You might have a Coke in your hand, and we don't know, there's no oranges involved with Coke, but the Coke was also produced. And so we're just going to have gratitude for all the labor that went into it, and just the fact that we so easily have this drink right with us. And then again, taking your time. I know we're taking a long time with this, but again, taking your time. And before we take our first sip, I'd like you, just as you do take your sip, to be aware of the flavor, obviously the taste. I was going to say the flavor, the taste, the sensation in your mouth, how it feels against your lips, against your tongue. We're just taking our time. So go ahead, take your time and have your first sip. So we're going to take 2 more minutes here. It's going to seem like a long time. I'd like you to just spend that time taking a couple more sips slowly and noticing. And here's our 2 minutes. So that was 1 minute. 1 more minute. There we go. That was 2 minutes. I'm curious to know how that experience was for you. Obviously, I can't hear what you're thinking, but perhaps it was slower than you thought. Those 2 minutes, when we're really just taking our time, it's almost like things slow down for us. You may have noticed that it felt difficult. You might have noticed that your mind was kind of racing off. Maybe it felt like stupid. Maybe your mind was judging this activity. That's okay. No doubt you noticed some things. So this activity can be a great way to pause and be mindful anytime during the day. Because how often do you have your first sip of something? Or it doesn't have to be your first sip, but that's how I remind myself. My first sip of coffee in the morning, my first sip of orange juice. Anytime I have one, I try to notice that first sip. So let's move on to food. And so food can be any item you want. Okay, I'm not going to eat all these, but I can't remember what these are called. The little crackers. Oh, Cheez-Its. My support person told me Cheez-It. Little Cheez-It crackers. But if I were to eat these, I would just eat them one at a time. Or perhaps you grabbed something. extra tasty, like peanut M&Ms. I'm saving those for later. Right now, I have an apple. We're going to start the same way. We're going to take our time again. Having gratitude for whatever you have, whatever your food item is. Pause and have gratitude for how it came to you, however it came to you. Just having gratitude for the different steps that it must have gone through to get to you, whether it's a Cheez-It or a chip, an M&M, an apple. Just having gratitude. Perhaps looking forward to the first bite, anticipating the first bite. And again, we're going to take our time with this. Go ahead and take a bite of your food. If you can eat it slowly, you're probably tempted to eat as fast as you normally do. If you can eat it slowly, chew it slowly, taking your time. We're going to go for another 2 minutes. So I'm noticing the time now. We're going to go for another 2 minutes, have another couple of bites, but mostly see if you can almost have a little mini competition with yourself. How slowly can you eat it? Just slow it way down. 2 minutes. That was past 1 minute. All right, so there we just hit 2 minutes. And I don't know about you, that felt like a long time. That was a long 2 minutes. When we slow down in life, it's like life slows down. That could be refreshing. So that's it for the drink and food meditation. So I'd like to transition to another one that's very important to me. And I'm calling it, It Shouldn't Be This Way. So first I'd like you to close your eyes and check in with your breath. So just noticing your breath in your body. Often we notice it like just in the chest cavity, maybe in the stomach. You notice the movement of your body with the inhale and with the exhale, checking in with the movement. Right now, we're not breathing deeper. We're not shifting our breath. We're just feeling our breath. So as you're sitting there, comfortably, I hope, I like to just spend a minute to present this idea, and it's the idea that things shouldn't be this way. We often have struggles in our life in various areas. They're not the same areas for all of us. We'll start with a simple example. In Erie, Pennsylvania, I think it was last week that we had snow, but right now it's May 15th today. So last week it was already May and we had snow. And a big part of me thought and felt it shouldn't be this way. With that, for me, came some kind of disappointment, actually, now that I'm thinking about it, disappointment and frustration. But the sense that it shouldn't be this way, and it's not okay for it to be this way. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with me feeling like that. But it's really nice to be able to release that, because I don't have control over the weather. I mean, last I checked, I have no control over the weather. So yes, of course, that's going to occur to me that it shouldn't be this way in May. And I kind of wish it wasn't this way in May, because I'm kind of hoping for good weather. But once I notice that, kind of practicing releasing that angst from my body, because I don't have control over the weather. What's another example? We can use people as an example. Think about someone you're close with, maybe a sibling, a partner. We'll get to children later. A sibling, a partner, a coworker, who really does things that you find difficult. Maybe they rub you the wrong way. You find them difficult. You don't understand their behavior. That's often an issue. We don't understand other people's behavior. And then kind of feeling the angst that you feel when people do things that you just don't get. And you have that feeling, that sense, the thought, it shouldn't be this way. They shouldn't be this way. Their behavior shouldn't be this way. And since we don't have control over other people's behavior, and of course, it can be frustrating and disappointing, and there can be other emotions that come along with it. Confusion, because we don't understand people's behaviors. Noticing that and letting it flow out of you, letting that angst, that frustration, that resistance flow away like leaves falling out of a tree in the fall. We're letting that angst and resistance just fall away. We can picture the leaves falling from the trees. We can exhale that angst. With every exhale, we exhale more of that angst and frustration. But we're releasing rather than holding on to that frustration, that things shouldn't be this way. We're releasing it. Acceptance doesn't mean that we're okay with the way things are. It just means that we accept that we can't control it. Accept that we don't understand it. Accept that people's motivations might be different than ours are. We can turn to kids. Some of us have kids, some of us don't. Turn to a time where your kids don't behave the way you think. And I turned that off. So some way that kids don't behave the way you think they should, we're going to do the same thing. Could be kids, it could be coworkers again. And as you're aware of that angst, things just shouldn't be this way. They should, right? In your mind, either it's they shouldn't, blah, 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 or they should, blah, 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 blah. We have all these ideas about how things should be. And you know what? Generally, we're comparing people's behavior to a kind of an ideal that we have. If it's with our kids, it's an ideal that we have, or it could be an ideal that we have seen in them at one point. Perhaps they behaved really well, or perhaps they did something really good. And then we keep comparing them back to that ideal, and they don't always measure up. So feeling that angst, they should be different. They shouldn't be this way. And releasing it, even if we don't understand, doing what we can to release that feeling. And I'd like to come to having that same sense with ourselves. And then there's so many areas of life. I mean, we're talking about weather, we're talking about people, we're talking about ourselves. We can talk about how a business is handling things. They should be kinder. We're going to ourselves now. Thinking of a way that you just feel you should be better. You shouldn't be doing what you have been doing or have done. And all of this shoulding, it ends up being a way that we're kind of shaming ourselves. It can be so hard to accept ourselves where we are. Because again, we have an ideal about how we should be. And part of that is based on comparing ourselves to others who we feel are better or handling things better. Because from the outside, it can really look that way. Because from the outside, we don't recognize how much other people are struggling. So coming to that should that you feel for yourself, the one that comes back so often, and place your hand above your heart. And have compassion for yourself. For the effort that you do put in, for how hard you've worked in so many ways. Compassion for yourself for how difficult it is to reach this ideal that you have for yourself. And I'd like to let you know that it's not just you. We all live with shoulds all the time. The shame researchers can confirm that everyone lives with shoulds and shame. Everyone. So this is the hand of compassion above the heart, compassion for self, and release of this sense that I should be better and the world should be different. It is how it is, and I'm always trying to be better. But part of that is stepping away from the shoulds and the shaming. Coming back to your breath, checking in again with your breath, releasing the shoulds, coming back to your breath. You can find this video again and replay it if you'd like to, or check out the other videos. I'd like to thank you for being here today and remind you that we'll be here next week live. This is Facebook video live on the Jefferson Educational Society webpage. So we'll be live next Friday at noon. I'd like to thank the Jefferson Educational Society, and my name is Penny Meckley Porter, and I'm with Thrive Therapy Space in Erie, Pennsylvania. Thank you. Have a good day.